post-mortem pod.
This is the 8-9 combo. This is the test match post-mortem. And Harry Jones, as our podcast listeners just heard there, the final, last, crucial attempted drop goal from George Ford. That was a hell of a test that we've just seen between England and New Zealand at Twickenham.
How's it, Brett? No matter how many times we try to vary our laws or test trial laws, it'll often and almost always come down to you got to make a kick and you have to convene a scrum and you have to find a way to score points however you can. And it doesn't really matter in the end as long as you make those points count. I thought that was a heartbreaker for England. And one question I had in my head was, for sure, always sub forwards, always have your reserves ready to go, but maybe keep a 10 on if he's going well, because sometimes it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, I feel like
Marcus Smith wasn't tired. Man, he looked like he could have made that drop goal.
I feel like we'll get into that. We are back with our immediate thoughts on what we have just seen in the first match of the Autumn Nations series. An absolutely fantastic test match with England going down to New Zealand at Twickenham in London. Let's just get straight into it, mate. England 22, New Zealand 24 at Twickenham. The halftime score had
14-12.
14-12, yeah.
They kept the margin.
Game. Yeah. Close game the whole way through. Let's just get straight to the five-word headline, where, of course, the winning headline becomes the pod title. What have you got?
Think about this in terms of really big corporations that are worldwide as you listen to this. My headline is Ford Misfires, Macca delivers. There you go.
That's not bad. That's actually quite good. I was going to try and come up with some sort of variation on Speed Burns, but then just before we hit record there, you just said Test rugby is the best, and until 3 seconds ago, that was probably going to be the winner.
I had a moment of genius.
You did. I like that. Ford Misfires.
It's interesting because really I posted this online when, I don't know, about 10 minutes in left. I said, it's fascinating because George Ford, cool, northerner, laconic, is being brought on to do a job, put this game to bed.
To close this game out.
Call everyone do this. And then Macca, for the first time being used properly, finally, as a finisher, was being brought on to do exactly the opposite. But what's interesting about rugby is in the end, Damien had to be very cool and kick one from the touchline, from the sideline. And it didn't look like he was phased at all. And so it's really funny how this thing laid out.
And look, Damon McKenzie is a good goal kicker. He was the best goal kicker in Super Rugby this year. Like, he kicked it 87% or something like that. But that's probably the hardest kick in the game. And if there was one that he was going to miss, it's probably that kick from the right-hand sideline. Yeah. And he just nailed it, didn't he? And
he didn't have any other kicks off a tee before that, right? That's the first one. Always the hardest one.
Yeah, exactly right. So just for the win, yeah. Look. What we'll go through our usual questions, I suppose. What worked well for New Zealand through this game, do you think?
I thought it was a very interesting game because New Zealand looked really shit from phases 2-3 on. They were dynamic on first phase or counter. But they had moments of magic, and Mark Talea has been untackleable for a long time, and New Zealand untackleables are always more untackleable than English untackleables. So that was part of the problem. Will Jordan, Setiti, there's a lot of untackleable guys. But it looked like they were struggling to resource the ruck. They had two cleaners having to meet people. It got a bit better for the first time in 2024. In the reserve corps came on, I felt like they got cleaner ball. Maybe Cam Roigard, I don't know. Something was different. But most of the match, it was the opposite way, whereas England really looked very, very good from phases 2 to 6 or 7. They just didn't know what to do next to score. An interception try. It felt like they were struggling to find that one final thing. And so interestingly enough, that's literally how it started. I even looked at adjustments and I thought, I wonder what's going to happen now. It really didn't change. And the margin was the same. And New Zealand just had enough moments of magic with Satiti, Bill Williams, chicken wing, Will Jordan's supernatural lines that he runs, Mark Talea being able to score sort of Cheslin Colby-like in the corner, slithering. And he's not a big guy, but somehow people cannot put him down.
Yeah, it's funny. It felt like entering those closing stages. It always felt to me that New Zealand would have to score a try. I mean, they had to score a try to take the lead anyway, but it always felt like they were going to win with a try, and it always felt like England were going to win with a penalty goal, probably because they actually missed 3 drop goals for the game. Smith had two shank drop goal attempts earlier in the game. George Ford famously kicked, I don't know, 13 drop goals in a World Cup game one day, out of the ordinary. So,
but it was that penalty shot that he had that you thought he was going to nail. I literally posted out, how big are his spuds before he kicked to see, and then he shaved and got that upright.
Off the boot, it was always right of the post too, and
he had salvation because
he doesn't draw it back.
No, he got saved on the bounce back. And then again, I thought, okay, so it's England's day. There's no other way to describe it. And I think you and I have been we watched all of All Blacks games much more closely than people outside, New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. They have had trouble in the final quarter.
Yes.
And so I think this match was interesting because they solved that pretty much. But I still think England lost that game. I don't think New Zealand went out and won that at the end because they had to sit and watch 2 kicks. They had to watch 2 kicks and go, are we going to lose or not?
Yeah. And that's fair. There was, and maybe we need to probably touch on this. I wasn't 100% sure what was happening though on the field with New Zealand in that last 20 minutes there, particularly when Damian McKenzie came on. Initially, I didn't actually know where he was playing. Yeah. And I think, and I'll happily stand corrected on this, I think he was playing fullback. I think they'd moved Will Jordan to the wing. Mark Talea was off at that point. Then Bowden Barrett has to go off for an HIA. Talea comes back on, and that's when McKenzie goes forward. I think that was the adjustments that they made. But there for a little period of time, it was just unclear who was actually running the show there for New Zealand. And in those, it was looking there for a point where, is this going to be another last quarter where New Zealand don't score a point? And ultimately, that's not the case. But there was just a little moment there, like maybe only 4 or 5 minutes, where it was quite uncertain how they were playing, what their shape was. Ultimately, it gets done.
They do it differently than everyone else right now. I asked Digger, our friend Digger, on our WhatsApp group, why is ALB always going to be this guy named the 20, player 23, whatever? Because to me, I just think a midfield should be able to play all match, and that you really should just have someone for cover who's versatile. And I don't find Anton Leonard-Brown in 2024 to be able to change a game. It's not the first time he's made mistakes. He did it as well in South Africa. And so I think it roils the shape of the backline as well. If they just had another forward and played the 6-2 like most teams are doing nowadays, and then just had your McKenzie who can play anywhere, Bowden can shift everywhere, keep those 2 guys on. I don't know why would you want to bring on ALB and take out Talea, who ends up in the end fortuitously scoring the winning try?
Yeah, quite true. And Anton Leonard-Brown cops the double yellow card at the end. Both I think were the right call. The risk will be whether, and we're recording this straight after full time, the risk will be whether that tackle actually gets upgraded to red, and then whether there's further judiciary concerns after that. But either way, either was a yellow card. So New Zealand were finishing with a man down. What didn't work conversely for England?
Okay, so what didn't work was
I'll pick up on your earlier point. I agree with you. I was surprised they bought Marcus Smith off. And I know that they want George Ford to do a job to finish the game, but I think I would have found a way to keep Marcus Smith on the field.
That seemed like
He was their
a
spark.
bad decision because it's a decision by choice. Nothing suggests that
It
Marcus
felt
was
prescribed.
injured. Yeah, it seemed more like a thing.
Yeah.
And I just don't like that. I never liked it even with forwards. But with forwards, at least there's a GPS statistic and you can kind of see it. And then you leave them on too long. There's just Marcus Smith could have run all day. So I would say Spencer at the base in the first half wasn't great. He got caught a few times. He got charged down. I think they could have even played better. Yeah.
Equally, Ratimer's delivery was a bit slow today, and I think, particularly in the first half, his speed of delivery or lack of was what allowed England's rush defence to get up in New Zealand's face more, which is what caused a lot of the errors. So, sorry, that's got you away.
It was errors. It was error strewn, but I would say what didn't work for England in the first half mostly was covering chip kicks over the top. They seemed to tighten that up a little bit, but seemed to be some space there, and a couple of times they could have even been worse. So
there was certainly holes. So when the try, that Will Jordan's try, he could have driven a truck through that gap back on the inside.
That was terrible.
So there was a few little defensive. England's defense mostly was very good, but the moments where they were a bit off, it actually cost them, and it could have cost them all.
I have it down that the adjustments at halftime were good on that. So that was more of a first half error. As far as the second stanza, I felt like English scrum got away from its dominance. I thought it was well-deserved dominance and they could have won a couple more penalties. I think Angus was a bit generous there to All Blacks at the very end of the first half. But the second, it turned around. And I felt like Dan Cole was done not just by his prop, but by Patrick Tuipulotu, who I thought brought immense power in the scrum.
That may well be Patrick Tuipulotu's best game for the All Blacks. He was phenomenal off the bench. He was absolutely fantastic.
He was good.
You're right about the scrum dominance, but it was a very, very late switch because New Zealand, in Talia scoring that try in what was that, the 76th minute, they took a tap from the penalty. They didn't go to scrum. So they still had scrum concerns.
Yeah,
even in 76 minutes. So they avoided the scrum in that moment. Ultimately, they scored the try from the tap anyway. But England's scrum definitely got away from them, I think, in the closing stages, which was, that's something for Borthwick to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I think they could have. I mean, I don't know how you make the referee do that. Maybe they could have held it a little bit longer to get more pay. Then I think that's about all. I think so. Quite frankly, England could have. They manufactured and built a game where they should have won. They should have beaten the All Blacks on their patch. So I'm kind of not going to say anything else negative about England because you just have to make if you get two shots at it, it's like if you have a 3-foot putt and you literally get two shots at it because of a mulligan ticket at your scramble, you got to make the second one.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be playing England next. That's not going to be great. It will be interesting to see what England turns up this week for Australia at Twickenham, but we'll worry about that later in the week. I wanted to touch on a couple of things that come out of the law variations, and for the good. There was two things in particular. Universal praise for the ref mic. And Angus Gardner has always been a very descriptive referee. He's always been very deliberate in his explanations and all that. But you could tell the moments where they were switching the stadium mic on, and he explained things very well. So big ups for that. That's a great thing. I've said for a long, long time, it should never be a disadvantage to go to a game live. You should always be able to know what's going on, and this will definitely help. The other thing was that you heard him calling for make sure there's access when kicks are going through. And that's this focus on escort runners and making sure that there's not blockers in front of fullbacks taking high balls. And for the whole, I think for this game, that worked really well. And there was a lot of really, really good aerial contests. So, a couple of little tweaks and the game is definitely better for it.
The ref mic is a simple one. It's just technology that he's already saying those things. So we're just telling people in the stands who paid $200 what he said. But the volume, hot mic, my goodness, it was too loud. So it was reverberation city. So they got to work on that.
So funny that you should mention that. The first 10 minutes, and I'm watching it in Australia, we're getting the feed from Sky Sport in New Zealand. For the first 10 minutes of the game, and it wasn't actually until after Bowden Barrett had kicked the conversion for Talia's first try in the 10th minute, Grant Nisbet and Jeff Wilson in commentary were very, very low. So for the first 10 minutes of the game, I was actually relying on Angus Gardner's commentary for the game.
And he does talk a lot in the new regime of ref world. So we have two things going against each other, which are kind of stupid. We're trying to say we don't want people to dump on refs and think of them as a focal point and berate them too much. But now we're making them even more a star. But it will end up, weirdly enough, favoring the explanatory refs. So I think Angus is good at that. He's good at talking through his decision. Luke Pierce is also very good at that. Some are not, but they're still good refs, but they just don't, not very expressive, and they try to be kind of quiet guys. So now it's been like, you better be able to articulate what it is you're saying, because everyone's going to hear you. The second thing is, some of the ELVs were kind of stupid. Like, when you give so much access to box kicks, you're going to have more box kicks, right? So I haven't got the stats here.
There was a lot
of kicking because it's always more retainable now and regainable. So you're stupid not to put more box kicks, which, if you were really asking fans the thing that bugs them the most is Caterpillar box. That's it. Yeah. And the second thing is, there was a sequence where, so New Zealand didn't have a good scrum, so they free kicked themselves on purpose. Then England had to, and they put up a high bomb, another extra kick. Whereas if you could reset the scrum, you'd have that beautiful scrum attack in the red zone. So they kick it up high, it goes into a loose scrum, and they fall over the line, and it's drop out. I'm like, oh. That is not more dramatic than a reset scrum, which has penalty jeopardy, kick to the corner, much more likely to get reward for attack play. This one was like, what do we do? I don't know. Let's just, we can't scrum again, so we'll kick up to the skies. I know what you're
saying, but in that actual particular moment, I actually thought that was a really, really good phase, a really good passage of play. So I wasn't completely.
Well, then they almost scored. New Zealand almost scored.
They did,
no,
yes.
All I'm saying is, if one of the big thematic thing is less kicking, we cannot get away from kicking in a football code, because in the end, kicking is your least risky thing most of the time. Yeah.
I saw a stat around about the half-hour mark that said New Zealand on average kicked 33 kicks a game in 2024, and to that point there'd already been 31 kicks in total. So there'd been a lot of kicking to start with. But I will say, first half was so quick, it didn't feel like it was a kick fest.
Was a little bit too quick. I mean, first of all, I felt like the game was so quick that when we got together to do this instant reaction, I hadn't had time to get all my thoughts together. I was mad scrambling.
Yes, absolutely.
The second thing I would say is that the All Blacks handling was really way off. If they had just been able to hold on to the pill, who knows what would have happened here. But I want to give credit to English defense on that, because I felt like when New Zealand did try to string together 5 or 6 phases, they were getting monstered. Maro Itoje, I thought, was really good. Ezike
Cunningham South was
the bench. Cunningham South, and the annoying Ben Earl, who acted like he had won the game on a knock-on. And then he did not, however, celebrate when he was done for the no arms tackle. I want to require him, if he's going to do. If he's going to do the celebration for other people's knock-on, then when he gets pinged like that, I think he should have to tear his shirt off and wail and groan.
Or stand there slapping himself in the face, something.
By the way, you talk about Angus Gardner and his advice to people. I mean, it literally sounds like family therapy. You can just I want to talk to Gus and see if we can market this around, scrum advice that is also good family therapy.
Yeah, fair. Wallace Satiti was a judged man of the match, and he was absolutely phenomenal. Let's hear from him right now, which our YouTube listeners.
What did he say? I don't know.
That was, Wallace Satiti had an enormous game, spoke incredibly well, and I like the way that he said there that they knew it was going to be up for it. They knew when George Ford was coming on what was coming their way, and it was just a matter of, trusting their systems and all that sort of stuff. It's the usual sort of cliche, but I tell you what, he's an impressive player. Even hearing him speak off the field like that, he's very,
isn't he? He's I also like that he doesn't always throw the offload. He's actually got good sense, spatial awareness. You saw Amoa, for example, go for an offload that he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And whereas Satiti's got that really good head about him where he doesn't try for too much. But the one where he flew it to Tele, it was so well timed. Like you thought that was dead. Like, okay, it's gonna rephase, and even the short side kind of went to sleep, and then boom, Tele was gone.
His hands in contact are absolutely phenomenal. He's got a massive career. There's no question about that. Who learned what from this particular game?
I don't know if Razor learned. Like, he'll be saved by ALB finally being carted off the pitch, and he'll have to have a different setup for his But his
even
bench.
That, mate, the fact that they actually held on and won, it might not change anything yet. The result might justify the selection. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, England. So I think New Zealand is a better rugby playing nation than England. It has better players. They're marginally more skillful when it all comes down to the crunch. There's not as many. You can talk about Ben all you want, but Artie Survey is better. Bowden Barrett's still better than the other guys he's facing. Over a career. I just feel like they're still playing better players, and big moments they play a little bit better because they're a bit better. And so the only player I can really give Razor credit for at this point, two, is Tubovai and Wallace Satiti. They do appear to be getting crusader-ish, mysteries from Jace Ryan or somebody, and they seem to be better. Yeah.
Tubovai's hands let him down a few times.
Yeah. Well, the lineout was a shambles again. And I do not understand how any All Black lineout can ever be bad. It's just impossible for me to compute. They were always such a horrible lineout to face, and here they are. How many did they lose today?
So Asafa Ormua's throwing was actually a lot better than it has been. The lineout issues weren't all down to his throwing, but yes, it was a mess, their lineout. And there was even a couple of definitely contested throws that were not called not straight, that perhaps could have been.
Patrick Tupolotu also came on and fixed the line out a bit, in that when he would catch it at the front, one of the bad things about catching the front is now you're like way off your attack pattern. But he's so good at catching and flipping it in one motion that it got them started.
Got them going in. Anything for England for next week before they face Australia?
I mean, England would feel pretty good about having probably outplayed the All Blacks on the day, except for a couple of defensive lapses. And defensive lapses probably are easier to fix than if you don't know how to go forward. They went forward. They looked like they could go forward and keep the ball. And if the referee was, inclined to reward the attacking team, they'll be okay. I mean, that's one of the big differences between refs is, are you more of the go forward guy, or are you more of the, the pilfer guy? So that's okay. But they have to re-examine this. Why they stuck forever in a 10 dispute. It's almost like the quarterback controversy in the NFL. Like, at some point, just give somebody the jersey and say, if you're going well, you stay the whole game, because
look, I don't think there's any doubt that Marcus Smith is the best.
He's so good. He's so good.
As I said at the start, I think they've just got to work out a way that he can still be on the field at the end.
Did you like the beginning 10 minutes when everyone did cross kicks and they almost all worked? I was like, what's going on?
That's what I say. There was a lot of kicking in that first half an hour, but it didn't feel like it because of the pace of the game. So
I like cross kicks. The two kings of cross kicks, Bowden Barrett and Marcus Smith, were just trained. You look at this, you see this, I could do that.
Very true. We'll see what Australia comes up with next week. But mate, I think that will call it a wrap on the first Test match post-mortem of the Autumn Nation series. And we have a big month of Test rugby ahead of us if this game is anything to go off.
Congrats to our New Zealand friends. Congrats to Trev Wong, our dearly beloved. Congrats to all the guys from New Zealand, because you finished the game and you won it in the final quarter.
Yep, a good point. Tell us what you think right here on the 8-9 Combo YouTube channel. And you can hit the 8-9 Combo up on the socials as well, or you can tell Harry and I on the socials in our usual places as well. Make sure you are subscribed on the YouTube channel and you're following on the pod platforms wherever you tune in, and just make sure you've got notifications and everything else turned on and all that, however you do consume. This is the test match post-mortem from the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed, coming from the podcast double act you already had. I'm Brett McKay, he's Harry Jones, and we'll be back in your ears with the Guardians' Rob Kitson very soon.
Come drop goal with us. He's going to be thinking about the rest of his life, that drop kick.